Algebra 2, Unit 6, Day 3 notes. Now, in Day 2 notes, we went over foiling. We did a binomial, which is 2 terms, times another binomial, which is 2 terms. And we talked about just taking the first term and distributing it, and taking the second term and distributing it. And that if we use the letters F, O, I, and L, that we can remember to distribute both terms from the first set of parentheses through the second set of parentheses, so that you can use the F, the O, the I, and the L. If you need to review your FOIL, please go back to Unit 6, Day 2 notes and do that. We're going to start right off here with multiplying 2 binomials, and we can use FOIL again, and it's going to be the fun one. It's the conjugates. Okay, now conjugates are fun because the middle terms, the O and the I terms, when we add them together, they cancel. And that's really fun. That's kind of cool because you get a bunch of terms, and then you get to cancel 2 out of the 4 and bring it down to just 2 terms. It's kind of neat. So specifically, what are conjugates? Well, if you look here at the notes page, okay, they give some examples of conjugates. They have x plus 2 and x minus 2. Those are conjugates. They have 3x plus 4, 3x minus 4. Those are conjugates. So you take any 2 terms. For example, I could have the terms 5a and 7. Okay, if I have those 2 terms, 5a plus 7, which is one algebraic expression, okay, one polynomial, one binomial, and then 5a minus 7, those would be conjugates. Notice that the only thing that changes is the sign between the 2 terms. Okay? Notice that the 5a did not change signs. Okay? That's a mistake that students in the past have made a lot. If I had said, okay, 3x plus 4 is one term, what is the conjugate? Well, they'd say, well, we got to change the signs. They'd say, well, 3x has to be negative 3x, and the plus 4 has to be minus 4. And that would be wrong, because we need only the sign between the 2 terms changing. The positive 3x is going to stay positive 3x, and the actual conjugate is going to be 3x minus 4. Okay, so now that we know what conjugates look like, 2 binomials where the first term and the second term are the same, but the sign between them is different. Okay, we're going to have a little fun multiplying them now. So let's look at this first example. This first example has 9 minus c and 9 plus c. And we're going to multiply them together. Now, are they conjugates? You have a 9 and you have a c in both of them. The only thing that's different is one of them has a minus, one of them has a plus. So yes, they are conjugates. So check out what happens when we FOIL this pair of conjugates. Let's start with the F. First times the first. Okay? 9 times 9 is 81. Let's go with the outer. 9 times plus c is plus 9c. Let's go with the 2 inner terms. Minus c times 9 is minus 9c. And then finally, the last 2 terms. Now, when we're multiplying minus c times plus c, the last term in the first set of parentheses times the last term in the second set of parentheses. Let's write this off to the side. Minus c times plus c. Okay? Minus times plus is minus. C times c. Any number times itself. When you multiply it by itself, what are you doing to it? You are squaring it. So c times c is c squared. right? That little piece there will trick people every year. So minus c times plus c is minus c squared. Now the fun part, because these are conjugates, 9 minus c and 9 plus c. When we multiply the conjugates, look what happens. Remember in lesson 2, we took the two middle terms, and sometimes they were like terms, so we combined them by adding and subtracting. Well, look what happens here. Isn't this nice? Plus 9c minus 9c. You take those and you combine them together. Plus 9c minus 9c, they cancel. So our final answer here is 81 minus c squared. Those are not like terms, so we cannot combine them into one term. 81 minus c squared is our answer. Okay, let's do the same thing with our second example over here. So here we have, again, two lovely conjugates. How do I know the conjugates? We have a 2x, 2x. We have a 1 and a 1. But the sign in between is different. You have a plus in one, you have a minus in the other. So we have conjugates, which means we know we're going to have some nice canceling, like the previous answer. We had some canceling there. That was pretty cool. So let's do foiling again. I'll try to keep this same color code here for those of you that like to do the FOIL. Otherwise, if you just want to do the distributive property like we talked about in lesson 2, that's okay too. All right, but I'm going to try to do the FOIL for you. So first times first, 2x times 2x, 2 times 2 is 4. X times x is x squared. Let's take the outers. So 2x in the first set of parentheses times the minus 1. So 2x times minus 1 is minus 2x. Let's take the inner two terms, the plus 1 and the 2x, which will give me plus 2x. You can already see it. It's fun. It's fun multiplying conjugates. I just love to see the canceling. It's just cool. And then the last term in the first set of parentheses times last term in the second set of parentheses, plus 1 times minus 1 is minus 1. Because 1 times 1 is 1, positive times negative is negative. Okay, so here we go again. We have x squared. There are no other x squareds. Let's bring down x squared. So 4x squared. We have minus 2x and plus 2x. They are like terms. They both have x to the first and only x to the first. We combine them together. So minus 2x plus 2x cancels. Gone. Minus 1. There are no other constants. We bring it down. And there's our answer. Pretty nice stuff right there. So multiplying conjugates. Okay? This was univariate, one variable. So the only variables that we used in this question were x's. The only variables that we used in that question right there were c's. So we only had one variable. All right? So that is multiplying conjugate binomials in the univariate type. Now let's go multivariate and go down the page just a little bit. So as you can see, we're still going to be multiplying lovely conjugates. We love the conjugates. You know, let's look at these two. Those two binomials both have positive 5x, and they both have a 2y, but the symbol in between. One has plus, one has minus. Those two binomials are conjugates. These two binomials, two terms, 3x, 3x, 4z, 4z, but there's a plus in the first and a minus in the second. Therefore, it is a pair of conjugates again. So we got conjugate binomials, but notice that we have x and z. we have X and Y. So we got multiple variables. That just means we're going to do the same stuff. It's just that we're going to multiply X's and Y's. Well, just remember this. A times B is AB. Pretty simple. If it were A, let's say A to the third times B squared, your answer would be A to the third, or A cubed, I want to say A cubed, A to the third, B squared. So A cubed, B squared. So when you're multiplying two different variables, it's easy. You just say X times Y is XY, A times B is AB. Notice I didn't take these variables' exponents and change them. They just stay there. A squared times B, A cubed times B squared is still A cubed times B squared. You just take the little multiplication dot out, right? So with that in mind, I hope that hopefully will help you to not get terribly nervous on this, because if I multiply X times Y, it's just XY. Okay? If there are numbers in front, if there are coefficients, you just multiply the coefficients. So hold on tight. We're going to do these two questions. It'll be painless, I promise. So let's FOIL it out again. So first times first, 9b times 9b. Okay, so just to make sure that everybody has this broken down. 9b times 9b, how do you multiply 9b times 9b? You multiply the coefficient 9 times the other coefficient 9. 9 times 9 is 81. You multiply b times b. Invisible math. If there is no exponent written, it's b to the first. B to the first. B to the first times b to the first is b squared. B to the second. All right. That's the first term. Now the outer terms multiplied together. Your second term, you are going to have 9b multiplied by plus 2c. So 9b times positive 2c. How do we multiply them? Coefficient times coefficient. That means the number in front of the variable times the other number in front. So 9 times 2, which is positive 18. And now what I was talking about before, what is b times c? Easy, it's bc. No, it's not EZ, it's BC. B times C is BC. Why? Because. All right. Missed that, haven't you? All right, so the next one we're going to have is the inners. So minus 2c times 9b. So minus 2c times 9b. Okay, so minus 2 or negative 2 times 9. Negative 2 times 9 is negative 18. C times B. You can write it CB, you can write it BC, it does not matter. Okay, now since we wrote BC in the previous one, I'm going to write BC in this one just because I think it'll be a little less confusing to have the order the same, okay, for you. All right, and finally, the last, minus 2c times plus 2c. Okay, so minus 2c times plus 2c. Okay, so negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. C times C. Okay, now these have the same bases. And we know the rule. Same bases, we multiply. Therefore, we add the exponents. So C to the first times C to the first is going to be C squared, or C to the second. All right. So now let's look. Oh, nice. Those middle terms are like terms. We can combine them. They have the same exact variables with the same exact exponents. Now, if you had written minus 18CB instead of BC, that's fine, because BC and CB, they're the same variables with the same exponents. They're still like terms. You would just combine them by looking at their coefficients. So we have plus 18 BC, minus 18 BC. Those cancel beautifully. Okay, so we got 81B squared. There are no other B squareds. So it has no like terms to add or subtract with. And we have minus 4C squared. There are no other C squared terms. So minus 4C squared. And we are done. Okay, let's look at this last question. Now, if you're watching this video, I highly recommend you to pause, try this last question on your own, and then unpause me, let it go, or just fast forward to see what the answer is and see if you did it right. Okay? So with that in mind, I highly recommend that you do it right now on your own and pause me. Okay? But let's do this. FOIL, first times first. 2x times 2x, 2 times 2 is 4. X times x is x squared. Outer, 2x times minus 4y. 2x times negative 4y. If it helps you to write it off to the side like this, go for it. If you can just look at it and say, oh, I know what it is, that's fine too, as long as you get it right that way. So 2 times minus 4. Positive 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. X times y is xy. Exciting. Right? Now for the inners. 4y times 2x. Same thing as we just did, except it's positive 4y times 2x. So positive 4 times positive 2 is positive 8. And then x times y, or y times x, I'm just going to write it as xy again. And then finally, I'm going to multiply my last terms. So plus 4y times minus 4y. So plus 4y times minus 4y. Well, positive 4 times negative 4 is minus 16. And y to the first times y to the first is y squared. See if I can get room in here. Not bad. My large finger. Okay, so these are conjugates, and look at those beautiful middle terms and the beauty. All right, so 4x squared has no like terms. Let's bring it down. Those two middle terms, xy, minus 8xy plus 8xy, it cancels out to 0. So it's like plus 0, which won't change my answer. Minus 16y squared has no like terms. I bring it down. Cool beans, hot potatoes. Okay. So that is multiplying conjugate binomials with more than one variable, multivariate. Okay, let's flip the page. So with the conjugates, you start with the same number of terms in the question, but in the end, you end up canceling, so you actually have less terms in your answer. Well, now we're going to do just the opposite. Now if you look, this is a much shorter looking question. There's one binomial with a little squared up here. Well, if you square something, you are multiplying it by itself. So I'm going to rewrite 3 minus w squared as 3 minus w times itself. That's a w, folks. There it is, okay? So that's what squared means. You multiply something by itself. So we're taking a binomial with one variable, and we're going to square it. That's all we're doing for this next topic. Now, are these conjugates? No. You have minus and minus. So that means we're going to end up with middle terms here that do not cancel. And that's fine. Let's FOIL this little baby out here. So let's go with 3 times 3, which is 9. Let's do the outer terms. 3 times minus w. So 3 times negative 1 w gives me minus 3w. Let's do the inner terms. Minus w times 3. Sounds familiar because we just did it. So minus 3w. And then for the last terms, you've got minus w times minus w. Minus w times minus w. Okay, minus times minus. Negative times negative. Negative times negative is positive. If you multiply or divide a negative by a negative, you get a positive answer. So minus times minus is plus. W times w, like we did in the previous page, is w squared. Okay, so now let's see if we have any like terms. We do, again. Okay? So you can change up the order of these if you'd like. If you want to say, let's go with the big squared first, that's fine. So positive 1, invisible math, w squared. Okay? There are no other w squareds, so I can just bring him down. Okay? W to the first, we got 2 of them. They don't cancel because they're both negative. Negative 3w minus 3w. It's like saying I'm taking 3 away from you twice. I take $3 out of your bank account, and I take $3 more out of your bank account. They don't cancel. That means I took $6 out. So minus 3 is minus 6. And so minus 3w is minus 6w. And then we have this positive 9 at the end. Okay. Now, if you give me 9 minus 6w plus w squared as your final answer, I'm not going to call it wrong. It's just that most books and most teachers that I know of, and you know, it just seems to everyone that you're going to be giving answers to, most likely, that it'll be nice to have the largest exponent first. From left to right, they call it descending order. W squared, w to the first, and then no w's, w to the 0 power with your constant. Okay. All right, so let's do this again. 3u minus 4 all squared. Again, what I would really recommend to you is pausing me right now, doing this question out, and then coming back and seeing if you got the same answers I got. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. Remember to rewrite your question. So squared means times itself. 3u minus 4 times itself. So we are going to multiply first term times first term. 3u times 3u, well, 3 times 3 is 9. And u times u is u squared. Let's do outer terms. 3u times minus 4. Okay, 3 times minus 4, 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. So don't forget your u. So 3u times minus 4 is minus 12u. Let's do our inner terms. Minus 4 times 3u, which is what we just did. We multiplied a minus 4 times a 3u just now. We know that it's also minus 12u. And then last, my last terms, minus 4 times minus 4. So minus times minus is plus. 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, let's look for like terms because we're adding and subtracting here. All right, let's start with the largest exponent, u squared. Okay, well, 9u squared has no like terms, so let's just bring it right down to our answer. Now we're going to go u to the first. We got two terms with u to the first, minus 12u minus 12u. What is minus 12 minus 12? Well, if I take 12 away twice, try to say that 3 times fast, I got minus 24u. Okay, so minus 12u is minus 24u. And then we've got this plus 16, which has no like terms at all. So we simply bring it down. U to the second, u to the first, u to the 0. There's no u's there. We have no like terms. We have simplest form. That is your answer. That's the best possible answer. Again, if you had given me, 16 minus 24u plus 9u squared, I'm not calling it wrong, but I would just prefer, as most other math teachers that I've known and that you are going to run into will prefer to see the descending order. Okay, now hopefully you thought that was nice and easy, because this next little section, it's the same exact topic, except now we're going to do multivariate. So we're going to have more than one variable. So before we had w but no other variables. We had u but no other variables. Here we got a u and a w. Here we got a u and an x. So we got multiple variables, which is okay. It's just as easy. So let's go ahead and scoot down to the page and do those. Okay, so we're all scooted down here and we're looking at this new topic, which is just like the old topic we just did. We're just going to add two variables in there, not just one variable. So here we go. Let's color code these, foiling. Okay, let's rewrite this whole thing first. Maybe it'd be easier if we rewrite it in green. Okay, so 3u minus 2w squared. Squared means times itself. So let's write 3u minus 2w times itself. And now we're set up. So let's go right ahead and FOIL it. 3u times 3u is 3 times 3 is 9. U times u is u squared. For the O, the outer two terms, 3u times minus 2w. So let's look at that. 3u times minus 2w. So if it helps you to write that off to the side for any of these pairs, go ahead, take that extra 10 seconds and do it. Don't just try to do it in your head and then make a careless mistake. So 3 times negative 2 is going to be negative 6. U times w is uw. Don't make it harder than that. U times w is uw, which still means u times w. So u times w is u times w. Okay, don't complicate it. Okay, for the inner two terms, we got minus 2w and positive 3u, which is what we just multiplied. So we got minus 6uw again. And then our last terms are minus 2w and minus 2w. So minus 2w times minus 2w, negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. And w times w is w squared. That's not my phone. Okay, let's find some like terms. Okay, so we've got 9u squared. There are no like terms. There are no other terms that have just u squared in it. So we're going to bring 9u squared down. Okay. Now, some people would like to have the 4w squared next. If you want to put it there, that's fine. Okay, that's completely all right. I'm just going to keep it till the end, just because we got multivariate. And with multivariate, I'm going to just keep it in the order that they gave it to me, u's and w's in between the u and the w. right? But again, if you put the plus 4w squared next, you're not wrong. All right, so minus 6uw minus 6uw is minus 12uw, okay? Minus 6 is minus 12. And then we've got this 4w squared, it's positive. Let me bring it down. Here is my final answer. It's a beautiful thing, right? So, like I've been saying, pause, try this question right here, give it a shot, okay? And then see if you get what I got. All right, I'm gonna erase this to give me a little bit of room. Okay, first thing I'm gonna do is to remember to rewrite. So this is gonna be 4u minus 4x squared, which means times itself. Okay, let's do it again. 4u times 4u. 4 times 4, 16. U times u, u squared. Outer. 4u times minus 4x. Do not forget that minus in there. So 4 times negative 4, or 4 times minus 4 is minus 16. U times x is ux. It's ux. Okay, the inners, we're going to do the same thing. Minus 4x times 4u, which is what we just did. So it's again minus 16ux. And then our lasts, minus 4x times minus 4x. Minus 4 times minus 4. Minus times minus is plus. 4 times 4 is 16. And then x times x is x squared. Okay. Hopefully you're seeing the pattern that we're just knocking it down with the FOIL. We're just doing that distributive property twice, and then we find the like terms and we combine them. That's what we did last notes, and that's what we've been doing every single question here. Sometimes they cancel, sometimes they look the same and they're easy to combine. Okay? But either way, we're just combining like terms. All right, so here we go. So we got this 16u squared minus 16ux minus 16ux. So those are like terms because they both have u and x, both to the first power. So minus 16 minus 16 is minus 32. Bring your ux with them. And then last but not least, we have the x squared term. So plus 16x squared. And that is your final answer. Okay, hopefully you're looking good. We are going to, again, continue the pattern. We're going to FOIL some more. We're going to do binomials times binomials. Now the only difference is we're going to stick a negative number in front of these coefficients sometimes, right? So again, it's not a big step from what we just did, but it's a step nonetheless. So let's go ahead and let's scoot down the page and let's get her done. Just like that. All right, so let's FOIL it again. So we're going to start with first term times first term, okay? Just be careful when we do it. It's the same pattern. First times first. So we got negative 7x times negative 5x. Okay? It's not a big deal. Negative 7 times negative 5. Negative times negative is positive. 7 times 5 is 35. X times x is x squared. Okay? So write it off to the side. Take it one pair at a time if you need it. Negative times negative, positive. 7 times 5, 35. X times x, x squared. You have multiplied everything that's there. Okay, do it one part at a time, and you won't make careless mistakes. Okay, don't make careless mistakes. All right, the outer terms. So we've got minus 7x times plus 2. Okay, again, everything, multiply everything. Minus times plus is minus. 7 times 2 is 14. You say, I'm done, minus 14. There's something that you didn't multiply. There's an x, so you gotta bring the x. That's a minus 14x, right? Make sure everything there is multiplied. Don't leave anything out. If it isn't multiplied, bring it along. Let's look at the inner terms. Minus 6 times minus 5x. So minus times minus plus 6 times 5, 30. Is that it? Hopefully you're yelling or pointing or at least shaking your head saying, no, it's not it. There's an x there. Good. So 30x. Then for the lasts. For the lasts, we've got minus 6 times plus 2. Minus times plus is minus. 6 times 2 is 12. Is that it? Yep. There's no x's. Okay. There are no x's there. So now we go back and we look for like terms. Okay. It's the same steps we've been doing ever since the beginning, okay, ever since last notes, day 2. So let's take 35x squared. Okay, there is an x squared. There are no other x squareds here. We bring it down. So now we've got 2 terms that have x to the first, and that's only x to the first as a variable. So we've got negative 14x, and we've got plus 30x. So you got to combine those, right? So we take negative 14, add it to 30, and bring the x's along. Negative 14 plus 30 is positive 16. So minus 14x plus 30x gives you plus 16x. And then lastly, we have this minus 12, which we need. There's my answer. Same pattern. Multiply the first term in the first set of parentheses by the other 2. That's f and o. And then you have your second term, your minus 6 here, multiplied by the second set of parentheses. That's your I and your L. Once you've multiplied and you got your 4 terms, you combine like terms and you circle your answer. Circle the right answer and we're good. Okay. All right, now I would say pause on this one, but they threw in just a little extra funkiness here. They threw in that negative outside. You can handle this negative outside a bunch of ways, actually. I'll try to keep it like as brief and concise as possible so that you don't have a whole lot to remember or to get you confused. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to take that negative and I'm going to multiply it by this first set of parentheses. If there's a negative outside of 5b minus 2, let's consider that to be this, negative 1 times 5b minus 2. Okay? So now we're going to do the distributive property, which we did last time. It's something you did in Algebra 1. Okay? So negative 1 times 5b minus 2. Well, negative 1 times 5b is negative 5b. Negative 1 times minus 2 changes the sign of the minus 2. Right? So that's going to be a plus 2. Plus 2. Okay, so now I'm going to bring down my 3b plus 5. Okay, so once you've done that, now it looks like what we have done right here before. We're going to FOIL this out. So I'm going to take the gray, take the first times the first. Negative 5b times 3b. Negative times positive is negative. 5 times 3 is 15. B times b is b squared. There's nothing left. Let's do that with the outers. Negative 5b times positive 5. Negative times positive is negative. 5 times 5 is 25. There's a b. We need it. Okay. The inners. Positive 2 times 3b. So positive 2 times a positive 3b. Positive times positive is positive, or plus. 2 times 3 is 6, and there's a b in there. That does say 6b. Looks a little bit like bb, but I'm saying it's 6b. Okay, and then last, plus 2 times plus 5. I'm pretty sure you can all get that as plus 10. Okay, we have now done the difficult part. We have done our FOIL. So now we finish by combining like terms. Okay, negative 15b squared does not have any like terms. Okay, surprise, surprise. Our two middle terms, negative 25b and plus 6b, are like terms. So negative 25 plus 6 gives you minus 19. Don't forget your b. Okay, and then you bring down your plus 10 for your final answer. Okay. Make sure you do your practices on these. Okay? All these take is practice and repetition. If you get in the habit of doing these right, then you won't make the careless mistakes on your test. Okay, all right, let's go to the very last page. And if you look at this last page, if you remember last notes, day 2 notes, when I said FOIL is cool to remember, you know, making sure that you take all 4 of the terms and you get your products. But you know, FOIL is maybe a cool little acronym, but all it is the distributive property twice. And FOIL only works when you have a binomial, 2 terms, times another binomial. So for those of you that don't even use FOIL, this is going to be a piece of cake. For those of you that like FOIL, you can keep using it. Just understand that it only works when you have 2 terms times 2 terms. Now we're going to look at 2 terms times more than 2 terms. Okay, so here you've got 2 terms times 3 terms. That's a binomial and a trinomial. It's like a bicycle and a tricycle. 2 times 3. Okay, 2 terms times 3 terms. So as long as you remember that every single term in the first set of parentheses multiplies by every single term in the second parentheses, you're golden. Okay. So I mean, look at the arrows are already here, but let's look at it. So you got this 2x in the first set of parentheses. I'm going to multiply it by the 4x squared, by the plus x, and by the minus x. And then they took the minus 3 and they multiplied it by the 4x squared and the plus x and the minus 6. Okay, so they multiplied each of the 2 terms by every term in the second set of parentheses. Then they wrote them down here. They simplified each pair of terms. Okay. And then they looked for like terms. So if you get to here, you go, okay, x cubed. There are no other x cubes. We bring it down. X squareds, we got 2 of them. So we have to combine the like terms there. So they would take the plus 2x squared and the minus 12x squared, and they got the minus 10x. And they say, okay, let's go for x. Minus 12x minus 3x. That's where they got their minus 15x. Okay. And then finally, there was no other constant, so the plus 18 went there. Okay. So you just have to look for like terms at the end. Okay, you're not doing a whole lot different. It's just that there aren't going to be 4 terms. If you go 2 times 3, you get 6. 2 terms times 3 terms, you get 6 terms. You're just going to look for like terms. So let's do this one problem right here at the bottom, and this will finish our notes. Okay, so let's take each term in the first set of parentheses. First term is 5v squared. I'm going to multiply the 5v squared by both terms in the second set of parentheses. So 5v squared times 1v is 5v cubed. 5 times 1 is 5, v squared times v to the first. They're the same base, so you add the exponents. 2 plus 1 is 3. 5v squared times minus 6. Well, 5 times minus 6 is minus 30. Got to bring the v squared along. Okay, now, once you've done that with your 5v squared, you're done with the 5v squared. Okay, he's gone. Okay, you are not going to multiply him anymore. Now you're going to multiply the second term, minus 7v. So let's look at minus 7v. We're going to multiply it by v. So minus 7v times 1v is minus 7v squared. Well, we also have to multiply minus 7v by minus 6. Minus 7 times minus 6. Minus, we can do this again here. Minus 7v times minus 6. Minus times minus is plus. 7 times 6 is 42. There's a v. We need the v. Okay, so we have now distributed the 5v squared, and we have distributed the minus 7v. So what is left to distribute? We've got the plus 3. So we're going to distribute the plus 3. We're going to get plus 3 times v and plus 3 times minus 6. Okay, plus 3 times negative 6. Plus times minus is minus. 3 times 6 is 18. Okay. Now again, notice I'm trying to help you with the color scheme and the color code. Okay, 5v squared, I made that red, and you multiplied 5v squared by the 2 terms in the second set of parentheses, and these red terms are your result. They're your product. Minus 7v, you multiply by the 2 terms in the second set of parentheses, you got these two lovely blue terms here in the middle. Took the plus 3 and multiplied it, and you got the lovely orange terms at the end. Okay. Notice you got 2 from the first, 2 from the second, and 2 from the third. Right? So now we look for like terms. Okay, so let's start with 5v cubed. There are no other terms with v cubed and only v cubed in them. Next, let's look at v squared. Well, we got 2 terms with v squared. Minus 30 v squared and minus 7 v squared. Minus 30 minus 7 is minus 37. Don't forget your v squared. Now we've got plus 42v and plus 3v. They are like terms because they both have v to the first power. So plus 42 plus 3 is plus 45. Don't forget your v. And then we have the constant. There are no other constants. It comes down. It's minus 18. Okay. That concludes day 3 notes for Unit 6. So please look at your upcoming schedule. Know that this is the last set of notes in Unit 6. All we have left now is Unit 7 after this. So this is the end of the new notes. So you're going to have to do your practice for this. You're going to have to do review, and then you'll have your test coming up. You should all have your schedules. You all have your syllabi. I've sent those out. If you have questions, let me know. You know when your class meets 2 times these weeks here. And then, check out my math labs anytime you want. If you want to come in by appointment, then just set that up with me. I'm more than willing to set aside some time for any of you to help you with any of the questions that you have. But, we're coming down the home stretch. We're almost done Unit 6. And there's only one more unit in this Algebra 2 half semester. So good luck. Stay in touch. Let me know if you have questions. And hope it goes well. I hope you enjoy these notes.